I'm going to make one more watercolor veneer. I liked the green and I kind of wanted, that was the color I was going for, but I didn't really like the gray background, the pearl and the gray. It's just not my favorite. I do prefer it with white, and I know I did. I just wanted to be able to show you guys different options and that you can do two colors. But I'm going to make one in a white option because I prefer that. And I was looking for a green to maybe go with that orange to contrast that orange cane. So I'm going to use a bunch of different mediums. I'm going to do this sped up because we did a video on it, but I just want to show you the mediums I'm going to use. I'm going to use the DecoArt Metallics Crystal Green paint, which I think is pretty. I still think I'm going to use the Sublime Ranger Alcohol Pearl alcohol ink. I might use a little white. I don't know. I also have this Interference paint, which is like your mica powder in a paint almost. So I'm going to use some of this. This is by DecoArt Interference, but you could just literally add some mica powder, which I'm going to do too. I'm going to use mica powder. I have this green, which I may not use. This is the Pearl X kit I got. This is spring green. Might or might not use it, but I have the Interference green, which is white, but has this green shimmer behind it. And then I'm going to use this chalk. I think I'm going to use all of them. And I'm just going to mix it in because on my acrylic one, the one thing I did like on the blue one is that if you look down in, it kind of got streaky from the paintbrush and then from adding the pearls or the Interference or the mica powders. And I like all of that weird texture it gave. So I'm going to mix all these mediums and not just go with one. But again, I'm going to speed this up, okay? I have to say, I was just making a quick blue one, just while I'm waiting for that other one to dry. And I mixed up that pearl and the silver, and I really like it with the blue. So I might just make a blue one, and then we might make one with, like, if I do more of that silver and pearl together, maybe do a mica shift and do a half and half. I don't know, I kind of like it. I don't know what you guys think. I think the silver in real life compared to on camera is really light. So I might take more of this silver and mix it with a bunch of pearl. And then we can take some kind of texture sheet or roller or something and make a mica shift out of it just to have some kind of pattern on it. And we can have a double-sided pendant. I still have plenty to make another one. I want it a little lighter than this, so I'm going to add even more pearl. So maybe, you know, if I do like a small ball, right? Let's judge ball sizes. Let's judge ball sizes. The small golf ball, you know, this is probably 2-to-1 of pearl to silver. So maybe I'll mix that up, and then I'll make another quick one of these and lay it out. And yeah, we'll do multiple pendants, I guess. So here we go. I have the Primo and silver mix here that I'm going to use for one half of the pendant. I made another one of these, and I have a little more silver mix that I'm going to lay this on just so I can run it through my pasta machine and make sure it's nice and smooth. So remember, if you're doing two-sided pendants, you want them each on the same thickness, so they're the same height. So I'm going to run this through on a 0. I think right now this is on a 3, so I want to see how thick, but I want it to get to where I can smush it a little bit. So I'll start with a 0 and see if that even touches it. Which it did. It definitely stretched that out some. So that's on a 0, which means my other side needs to be about a 0 thickness as well. And if we're going to do a mica shift, when you do a mica shift, we're going to either take a texture sheet or a roller over it, and then we're going to shave it off. So starting at a 0, this is going to end up thinner. So let's leave this for now, because I can pick either one I like, and I might have to take this down thinner if my mica shift ends up thinner. So we'll leave both of those. One of them is just going to be a pendant of it. One of them is going to be this and this. So let me get out some texture sheets. Let me get out some core rollers and see. This looks oceany to me, so I want to see if I have something that's kind of wavy. So the only wavy type things, I have this one, but they're more like circles. And then I have this one here. I can try both and see what I like. So this is CFA Art Tools. I got it on Etsy. Oh, GF Art Tools. gfartstore.etsy.com. Sorry, it looks like a C on the front side. So I could try that one. You can try both. I mean, it really, you can try it as many times as you want. All I have is watercolor water down here. That has some, like, watercolor in it. Oh, well. Like, I put my watercolor brushes in here because I didn't have any other bottle. That's okay. It's still water. You could use cornstarch or whatever you want. I just tend to use water. So let's see what this one looks like. So really, it's a lot of pressure, push down in. You don't want to, I find, roll on it unless you roll really hard once, because you'll get double impressions. So I do better just by pushing really hard from one end to the other, all the way up to the top. And then I get less double impressions that way, but, you know, everybody has a different way of doing this. Hang on, let me kneel on my chair so I can get good pressure. This is a really kind of fine pattern. Or tight pattern, I mean. Like it's not a big chunky pattern. But I don't know. It is deep. They're meant for polymer clay. But I've never used it, so I don't know how it's going to look. But the good thing with mica shifts is, and I've gone over mica shifts in quite a few videos and what you're doing. The good thing with mica shifts is if you didn't get a good one, you just roll it back up and redo it over and over and over until you're happy with your look. Wow, I pushed that in really hard. Okay. Let's try to dap off some of this water, and then we shave it off. The whole point of people ask me all the time, like, why did you shave it on the videos I've done? So you don't have texture. You're not looking for texture, but you're looking to get the design without texture. So that way you can resin the whole thing, or it's a smooth piece, but it looks like it has texture, though it doesn't. If you want a textured piece, great, but a Mica Shift is different. I'm trying to get off some of the water before I start shaving it. This part, it doesn't look very good over here. Now, again, this takes practice. The sharper and cleaner your blade, the better. But it does take practice, and I'm not perfect at it every time. You're not looking to gouge way in. You're just looking to shave off the texture parts. And that way, you shift the pigment or the mica inside of the clay, and you can see the pattern, but you don't have the raised bumps. Oh, I'm going too deep there. See, I wish I had one just right here where I'm shaving with like these straight lines. I wish I had a texture sheet like that. Like, I wish I had a texture sheet with just this part, not with the circles, but I don't. So, I think that would look cool with this blue. You know, and I had intended on just making one pendant. While I was waiting for that to dry, I was just going to make a blue one. But then when I laid the blue on the silver, I actually kind of liked the way it looks. So, get out of your head and what you intend, and just go with it and let your clay tell you what to do. Because a lot of times, if you just step back and just enjoy the process, you'll actually create something very neat that you didn't intend on creating. I think we get too stuck in what we're trying to do that we miss what we could make because we're too focused on, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Like, I was just laying on this gray as a backing. And I was like, and I caught it like, oh, actually, I like that color combination. So if I would have just been too focused on that being a backing, I would have missed that. And I actually really like that. So I stop, and I'm going to use that part. And then I can continue on just making a solid piece. I think I have enough here to make 1/2 of a pendant. But it did end up getting really thin. So, what I'm going to do is cut off some of this clay. Because I need 2 halves to be the same thickness. And right now, some of these parts, because I shaved it, aren't the same thickness. So let me roll out this. And again, this is on 0 right now. I'm going to roll out this scrap on 0. And I also need to decide what cutter I'm going to use. That will tell me how much of this scrap I do need. Actually, I do have a little bit more around all of this, so I can take some of this off because I need a little bit more to lay under this. Some of this. Some of that. I need more to make a square that big. And same with this guy. I don't need all of this. So whichever one I like better, I'm going to put with this, maybe with this Mica Shift. I don't know. We might do one more Mica Shift with the other one and see which one I like better. You know what, let me just roll this out a couple times. Let me do the other one. Just... it just fell. Something just fell. I'm going to do this other one just to see if I like it better than this one. if not, I'm going to have to back this one up because see how some parts are really, really thin? So there's one option to go next to. Let me do this core roller here. This is the Core KP CR-04. KPCR-04. I want to see if I like this one at all as well. So let me speed this up. I had to get out a new fresh blade because it was dragging the clay, not cutting it as much. So I have a couple new blades that I keep for cutting canes and stuff. So let's see what we like better, or what I like better. You guys have no opinion when it's in a video. I can't get a response back. So that one, or kind of like this one. Let me run this through on a 0 just to flatten it out so we can actually see the texture. And a 0 really didn't do much, which is why I was going to back it with extra clay. Because it just pretty much slid through on a 0, and if I need to get it to a 0, but I also might stretch this one out to a 1. Because even when you do the mica shift and you cut it, it's still not perfectly smooth. So I'm trying to run it through to stretch the pattern out a little bit, maybe from this end to this end, stretch it that way. But it's already on a 0 and it pretty much just slid through my rollers. So I'm going to take this scrap because this is all I have of it and I need it to fit. And I'm not sure if I'm going to use that one still. I'm going to take this down to 3 just to see if I can get it behind here. Most of my pendants are about that size, so that's really all I need. Let me take it to a 4. See if I can get enough of it. And with a 4 and then that thickness, hopefully a 0 will stretch it out a little bit. Because I think I'm going to put this one through the pasta machine one more time because you could still see some of the seams. So let me now run this through. I'm going to run it this way to elongate it on a 0. So remember, the backing clay is a 4. This one doesn't even touch a 0. It's probably a 2, but we'll see. So I'm going to start on a 0. And you could hear it. You could hear it when it went through. See how it stretched it out a little bit? But it's a flat surface. I mean, there's still a little texture. I could do a 1, but I don't want to get rid of it. I might do a 1. Let's go down to 1. Let me actually put this one at a 1 because I want to get rid of, you see how I rolled this through the rollers and you can hardly see the seams, and this one there's a lot more. Let me put this through at a 1. And a 1 is very similar to a 0. It's a little smoother there. So then let me put this one on a 1. Again, I went in the same direction. I went into the rollers like this because I wanted to stretch the pattern out that way, not that way. So do we want to do this one? 1/2? Or if I stretch this one out, do we want to do I think that's too busy for it. See, that's what I think. I think it's too busy. So now they're both on a 1. Okay. This one I'm just going to cut a piece out of, a pendant out of. The problem is all my tiles have stuff on them right now. Here's one I can take something off. Okay. So we need to decide what shape I'm going to cut. So let me get my cutters out. I'm going to decide what shape. So I think one of my favorite shapes to do a 2-sided pendant is this oval. Now these ovals, I have to say, are from Samantha Burroughs, Justima Designs, or Justima Tutorials, or whatever. I don't buy a lot from her because they're from Australia, and it's actually quite expensive for me where I am in the US, and they take forever to come. So I tend not to order a lot, but I think this is one of my favorite shapes for double-sided. Most of the cutters I get, and that you could probably find from him, this shape is Metal Clay Studio on Etsy. They're from Russia, so yes, but he makes whatever size you want. He'll respond back to you. I mean, he's a really, really good guy. So what we're going to do is we have to cut 2 out. We have to cut 1 out of this, 1 out of this. So pretty much you need to decide where your favorite spot is. I like different things about it. Kind of everywhere. Because you're going to cut. We're going to cut them out. I'm just trying to decide, guys. This doesn't look like it has much translucent on it. So if I decide to lightly sand this, that might come off. I might not sand. We put the layer of translucent over to protect it, so when you want to sand, but I might not end up sanding these pendants. So, I don't know. I kind of don't like that, but it's kind of in my whole thing. Like, I can't get around it unless I use this other one, but that's not on a 1, so I'm kind of stuck with that little guy there. I can't decide, people. I can't decide. That ripped a little, so yeah, let's go over here somewhere. Katie just cut a piece out. And don't get rid of these scraps. We might swirl these up later. Ooh. Probably try a swirl on those. Okay, so there's that one. Don't worry too much about the shape right now because we're going to be recutting. And it's summertime, so your clay is really soft and sticky. But we're going to have to burnish these two together and recut the shape out. Yeah, see, I've already stretched it pretty good. So I wouldn't worry too much, except for I'm going to have to set one on top of the other. So that's why I'm going to try to get off some of this scrap. I might want to let them rest for a little bit before I set one on top of another because it's hot and everything's sticky. Okay, so there's one piece. And again, don't worry about your shape too much. Then we got to pick out the best piece on here, which this actually looks quite defined. So let's do right here. Okay. Now we have our two parts. Now I think I am going to let them rest for a few minutes just so they're not as sticky. Again, don't worry about messing up your shape. And I'm going to take some backing clay because we're going to need to back this once we get the two parts together. I always feel like I'm safer if I back it when I'm putting a half and half together. So maybe We could use that as the back, that other Mica Shift that we did. Maybe if we cut some of this gray off here and lentil this up, maybe we can get something cool with the rest of this. Let's get some of this silver off though. I mean, I do have other backings I could use totally that I've saved from other projects. When I do this, almost every time I make something, before I mix it back up and scrap it, because this will be perfect scrap clay, or for beads, you'll just mix all that paint in it and it'll be fine. But because it's attached to a gray, it's not really, it might tint this gray a little blue, but it's not going to do too much. So what I might do is take some of this and some of this. Let's just see if it works. It might not work. Let's make a core. Ooh, make a core. And then we'll wrap this veneer around and we can lentil it up and see what we get. Maybe something stupid, maybe not. So usually I'll just take and cut pieces. Start wrapping it around. You're obviously going to see some of this gray. It's going to do almost what the white did. And we've done this a million times. I do this almost every single time I have scrap cane. I mean, I still have 2 sitting here from that I haven't baked. I mean, I have all kinds of things I could use for a back. You know, honestly, you could just use solid clay. Or I could have used that other Mica Shift, but if I can make something cool, why not try? So pick a part, and we're going to begin swirling. Just with an acrylic block, you could use a tile. It's nice with something clear because you could actually see through it. A CD case cover, you know. But if you don't have anything clear, even just the flat side of your tile will work. Mine always go oblong, and it's because I push too hard in one spot, but I can never get them to go back. Trying to, but it doesn't really matter. Let's see. Let's flatten it out. It's starting to crackle a little bit because my veneer's been sitting. I made that probably an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. Which I don't mind when it crackles and does fun things like that. Again, it's just a back. I'd rather not use my silver that I can use for something else in this, when I can just use what I have already. And I think something like that, to me, let's run it on a 0. Even though it's crackled, to me, that looks cool. Like, why not use something like that? Why use a good clay, a good color clay, when it's just the back? And actually, because those are both, I'm going to take this down quite a bit, so we might actually lose some of this. I'm taking it to a 2, because I don't want this pendant too damn thick. And if these are on a 1 and that's on a 2, it's going to be a thick pendant. So the other thing is, we're going to need 2 of these. That's the problem. We could do 1 there. And then can I fit another one? I might be able to fit 2, because we're going to make ultimately 2 pendants out of this. So, I mean, my pendants never flip around on me. They just never do, because I wear them on a rubber cord. And I've never been walking around with my pendant flipped. Ever. Not once has it ever flipped on me. right? Why don't those work? That's just clay I was just going to scrap. Why can't we use that? And then we have a secure piece for 2 parts to sit on. So now we need to get rid of these. I feel like I'm all jumbled up today in this video. You know, you could use either side. There's one. There's 2. So usually whatever one is less sticky, you put on top of the other. But I don't want to put anything on this. So first thing we need to decide is where we're going to cut. You want to decide that before you get them on top of each other so you can get them on and off really fast. So ideally you don't want to have 2 parts where you're going to drill your hole for your jump ring, okay? If you're using a wire that you're putting in there in between the backing, great, you don't need to worry about this, but you don't want to be drilling a hole on your seam. So in that case, you kind of want to figure out, you know, how you can do it with your blade. You could, you know, cut a part out with your cutter. You know, whatever you want to do. A metal cutter would probably work better. Maybe something like that. I usually do something like that. You could also do... So one of them's going to have more gray, one of them's going to have more blue. Unless we do something like this, which I actually might do. Okay, so let's set that one on top of that one, and when we go for it, we're going to go for it, okay? This is not time to dink around. Actually, let me just pat my edges to make sure there's not a lot of loose stuff hanging off that would stick to this bottom one. Let's see, because the gray is really sticky. There's one. Don't worry about distorting it. We'll put it back together in a second. Okay, there we go. And again, it's not, I mean, you could put your cutter and lay it in your cutter. It's not the end of the world if it's not perfect. This one's pretty well the same shape. It's harder in the summer to do this. It totally is, but we're going to be, after we burnish this, we're going to be recutting this back out. So really try to sandwich them together. Sorry, I'm off the edge here, but I'm running out of room to work. As you guys know, that's how it kind of works. And because we cut them the same thickness, or rolled them out, they're the same thickness, except for it got a little tall right there, which I might shave off that gray in a second. Or try to, I stretched it out a little bit, which is why, ooh, sorry. So we'll have to burnish those 2 together. And then with these 2, they should match up perfectly, but because they're really sticky and I really had to pull on them, it didn't quite work, but it will. Okay, now we need to get some deli paper or wax paper or even printing paper, and we need to burnish these really, really well together. I usually start out on my seam and going with the seam so the seam doesn't get super wobbly. If your seam gets crazy wobbly and you don't like it, you could layer on a translucent cane. You know, you could do something like that. So start with your seam. That's generally where I start, and follow the seam. But we're also going to put these on a backing because you don't want these 2 to separate. I don't always put them on a backing. I feel like mine are fairly secure usually, but especially when I resin the 2 parts together. to see if I can fit this back in the cutter, this one here, because this one got really not oval anymore. This one should fit back. I should be able to cut this one. I'm going to have to really stretch this clay out while I'm burnishing to get it to, maybe I'll have to change the shape to the football cutter. Because this piece I stretched a lot when I pulled it off from the other. Make sure you do these ends. I always forget about these ends. Okay, this one's pretty good to go. This one, like I said, I don't know unless I go down a size. See what I mean? I'm not going to be able to fit this one, so I might change this shape. This one will be fine. So now I need to determine if I should put on this backing or not. I don't really want it that thick. I might let me take this down to 3. And you might not like the look of this thing at all with the silver. I like it. God, everything's so sticky. Oh, it's 75% humidity, which is quite a bit. Let's burnish that to our backing. Now we know these 2 parts, because I just saw a lady on my Facebook page and she did something with 2 parts and they separated after she baked them. So we told her, you know, use Bacon Bond, you know, put them on a backing. This is the way to prevent that, so that doesn't happen, is to just put a backing on. You're safer than sorry to just put a backing on ahead of time. I don't always do that, but if you're new, you definitely want to, until you know your strength of your clay. So this one pendant, once we cut out, is good to go. Let me just look at it, because I got a little scraps on the edge there. Okay. So that one's good to go. That one's done. And just gently, just to get my fingerprints I just got on there off of there. Okay, that one's done. This one, because it won't fit in my cutter shape, let's get it on the backing. Let me stretch this one out again too, because that thickness of that one there is fine. So let's put this on a 3 as well. Let's burnish that on. Okay, and then with this one, I think because it's kind of already got that shape, I can use my football shape cutter, which is a one that I like. I mean, I could use tons of different cutters in this case, right, with this shape. I mean, I could use Where is it? This shape one right now. I could totally do that. I could do most of the shapes I have. But if I can find my football cutter, which I just saw. Do this one. Like that. And there we go. I think it looks kind of neat. And then with this other one, what I'm going to do is just take a cutter with this one here. This is pretty thin, so I should put a backing on this one too. Because that's pretty thin. So let's put this through the pasta machine. Stretch this Mica Shift out. That didn't do anything. Let's go down. I'm going down through the settings till it actually catches in my rollers. And then I'll lay. Ooh, okay, we got, that's a big air bubble. Little air bubbles I'm not as concerned about on the backing, but a big one you definitely want to try to get out. I'm going to try to pick my favorite part. Okay, I'm going to run this through on 0 because that was a 4. The backing's on a 4 right now, and I think this is on a 3. So let's run it through on 0. Oh, that really stretched it out. I didn't expect it to stretch it that much, but it did. Okay. And now let's cut one out of this. Let me burnish that. Well, let me cut it first. No, let me burnish it first, because if I burnish it after I cut it, it's going to change the shape. I just want to burnish it just to make it nice and smooth before I cut it. Everything's so sticky, you get fingerprints all over everything. There we go. And let's pick a cutter out. Here's one I don't use very often. This is just a basic metal one. Have no clue where I got it. Got it a long time ago. Could do that one. Wonder if I can fit 2 on here. Probably. And this round one, maybe? I mean, if you like to make earrings, make earrings. If you like to make beads, make beads. Make whatever you wear. This is what I wear. I don't wear anything on my wrists when I'm working. My hands are in people's mouths, so wrist jewelry is out. Earrings, right now I'm wearing a helmet at work. If people are on my Facebook page, you've seen my helmet. I'm not wearing earrings right now. So this is what I wear. So make whatever you wear. The only reason why I make pendants like this is because that's what I wear every day. But it doesn't mean that's all you have to make. That doesn't mean that's all I could make with this. Not at all. I think what I'm going to do is try to take this silver and keep my plain silver plain. Before I peel all this up. And then I'll mix up these scraps and I'll show you what they look like. I don't know what they look like. Probably is going to be a different colored silver or a lighter silver. But there we go. So I'm going to put these all in the oven, 275 for an hour. Usually what I do with a piece of non-wax parchment is I lay it over it like that and just bake them. If there's something like the glitter piece we did the other day, I tinted foil over it so it didn't touch it. I bent the foil so it was like teepeed. But normally if they're flat pendants like this, I just bake them flat. But you do want something covering it because you don't want your white or translucent to scorch it all. So I'm going to get those in. And then I'm also going to get my green one with a layer. Look how shimmery it is. Ooh. Now that it's dry, with a layer of translucent over it. And I'll make a couple of these. Not pendants, but I'll break them into the pieces and get the veneers layered out. You don't need to watch me break things up in pieces again. And then we'll decide what we're going to put with the green. I should actually do I'm going to do a tester bake too and see what I think before I put these in. Look at the scraps I just mixed up. These are from this and this mixed together scrap. It's like just a really light gray. So, you know, that should work fine. Okay. So I have the other pendants are in the light. They're curing. I did not sand them. All I did was buff them with my orange and white wheel and then resin them with UV resin, which we've done a bunch of times. I wanted to show you my new green baked with the white versus the one with the silver and the pearl. So I do like that a lot better. Here is not baked, obviously, the slab I made. And here's the other one. I might use that one for a backing or to lay some canes on. I haven't decided yet. What I'm going to do is we have this yellow flower that I think might go good next to this green one. I've already made a pendant out of this green, a solid pendant. So I think that might actually look cool. So let's try something like that. The problem is I need to lay it on something. As you guys know, I prefer to use scraps. So I think what I'm going to do, I have this green scrap that came from scraps of this. So I'm going to use that. Maybe I'll just use some silver for the center. I'm going to make like because you won't see it much under the translucent, but I think I'm going to do some greens. So I think what I'm going to do is layer on some different greens. Hang on, I'm going to plug my phone in. Just said 15%. Here we go. So I have, this is a scrap green as well. I think I'm just going to layer on some like of these greens next to each other and see what I get out of it and put the canes on top of it. Here's a dark green scrap that I have. And I might just swirl it up and see what happens. I don't think if I go too light, you won't see it underneath the cane. So I think I'm going to go something like this with just some green under it. I don't know. We'll see. I have tons of the cane, so, you know, we'll do it as we do it. You can put whatever you want under it. The other thing I think I'm going to do, which I never usually do, is I think I'm going to cut some of the translucent off and see. I only did my largest and my medium size. I didn't do the smallest size I have. I may cut it and decide to put it on the piece as well, but I don't know yet. So I'm just going to swirl this up just to get the colors moving a little bit. And I might do it in a few areas. There's one swirl. Oop. I don't think that's an air bubble. And re-ball it back up. And pick another spot. I mean, you could just marble it, like roll these together and twist it. You know, like twist a snake. You could do that. I don't think, like I said, it's not going to be a main focus, so I don't think it really matters. And so we got a swirl there, swirl there. Let's try to swirl something right here. You can swirl lentil beads more than once. I think people forget that. If you're just trying to get a cool coloring or something going on. For some reason, this is reminding me of the Nightmare Before Christmas. Right there, like that tree that he stands on. Just trying to get a variation of color. Oh, it's moving. Moving. There we go. That's kind of cool right there. Kind of like what that did right there. Could almost try it one more time right here, but I actually like that. So let's flatten that out. I'm going to run that through my pasta machine on 0. Oh, I just got something for my pasta machine on it. Yeah, I think that will be cool, huh? Okay, so we'll use that. And on this half, I'm going to lay my canes. So I think what I'm going to try to do, which I've never done, is try to cut off some of my translucent off a few of these and see if I can have less translucent. Now that may, when I burnish these together, cause them to distort a little bit. I don't know. But because they're the same flower, I also may be able to like stagger the petals a little bit. I just want to see. Why not try, right? I think, you know, when people say my videos are long, I'm not just doing one thing either. Like, we just made like 3 different kinds of pendants in here. So, I don't go, oh, go back and see this video. Not usually. I just do it from start to finish, so you can do it with me. That's what a lot of beginners do. They do it with us, and I'm not catering towards experienced artists. I'm not an experienced artist myself, so I'm not doing anything that no one should have never seen before. See, I wonder if maybe just for the top couple, maybe one on the top, I'll do like that. And then maybe a medium one. I should have stretched that one out a little bit. I used my Lucy clay slicer with 1 full turn on the slicer. So maybe I should have, it gets a little flat. But you can't spin your cane in the Lucy clay slicer each time, because every time you take it off that backrest, you have to do 1 waist slice to make it even. So I don't like rotating it on my clay slicer like you would if you were cutting. You turn your cane so it doesn't get flat. If you do that on your Lucy clay slicer, every time you rotate it and pick it up off of the back thing, you have to do a waist slice. Otherwise it won't be even like that, because it has to re-even the end off. I found, so I don't like to do a waist slice every time. I mean, yes, we can use those slices for scrap beads and lentils and stuff, but I just don't like to. So yeah, it gets a little flat, but I just give a little tug on one end and it's fine. See? So I don't know if it's worth doing that. maybe for a few on the top, and then some on the bottom we'll just lay them on. So yeah, just, oh, I ripped it a little bit, but that's okay. So just begin layering them on here. And even these bad slices you can use on the ends. See, doesn't really matter because that one's going off. Probably gonna need a few more slices, huh? Or I should get some small ones cut out. I think what I'll do is I'll probably cut my smallest size as well, and then I'll cut these two. I'll cut the translucent off, and then I'll cut some small and a couple more mediums. Just layering on some more here. I want to get a full layer of the ones with a translucent around them. And then I either will burnish it and then put on the pre-cut ones, or oh, I need a couple more. Let's see if I got some. Here's a scrap one. Wasn't a full slice. Actually, that should be enough for a pendant. So then let's stick on these guys. We'll see. It gives a cool 3D layering effect when you do this, but you know, and you, I mean, it looks cool right now, even without being flat. Cool. And then you got to take some parchment and we got to burnish this down. Now, I start off by just pushing straight down because this is really bumpy right now. So I just tend to push straight down first, and that hopefully will keep petals from getting all weird. But if they do, I mean, that's the whole point of this thing. I've already made one with this. Right here. These two. This one, and then that was a scrap, but I just layered it on some scrap that I had. So it does make some look like they're in front, some look like they're behind when you layer them. And remember, this is Cernet translucent. It's one of the clearer translucents I've found other than Pardo, but Pardo's a wax-based clay, so it's definitely a little different. So the Cernet is my favorite. And now, once you got it fairly flat with your fingers, you can then burnish it out. It's easier when it's on a tile because then you can rotate it. You could be spinning the tile right now instead of me having to come from different directions with my arms. Cool. Okay. And so there's one layer, and I think the other layer I'm going to do is the green, so on the other half. So I did a setting 0 with the swirl and then these thin slices. So I'm going to have to put my green on something that's a setting 0. Not that I think it'll really matter. I was going to back it with the other green one, but I might actually do something with that other green one. So let me take some scrap clay. Maybe I'll swirl it up actually the same way I just did for a back and run it through on a setting 0. Or you know what? I have this scrap from the other day. I don't know what's underneath it. I don't remember. But I could use this. I could run this out. It's probably going to crackle because it's been sitting for like 4 or 5 days. But unless I were to sit here and warm it up, which I'm kind of impatient, so I probably won't. But if I run, you know, this through my pasta machine, I could use this for the back. I just need to bulk this up. So the back won't be this fully unless I were to make a whole new back, which I'm not going to do. This is just something to layer under this side. I'm trying to stretch it out with my fingers. It might help it from crackling. We do this cutter maybe. That should be big enough, which means if I go in this direction, I could probably actually get 2 pieces out of this. Everybody's gonna go barging upstairs. Josh just got home. Oh crap. Well, that's where it's sticking. That should be fine anyways, because okay, let's cut 2 pieces out, and then we'll check the height and see how the height is on each other. See if I need to do anything. I mean, you could totally just, you know, like, you could do this. It's too hard when they're jaggedy edges. But they need to be the same height. Well, they should be, especially if you got a resin. It'd be weird if you had 2 halves that aren't the same height. Okay, let's see. They're about at the same height. Okay, so then we'll do the same thing we did earlier. We'll cut 2 pendants, decide how we're going to cut it, and then cut it. So let's see, what part of this do I like? Oh, I've gotten some dust and stuff on it now. Okay. And I like to get those little dark dots out if I can help it. No, I can't. They're gonna have to be in it. Okay. And this scrap will definitely probably mix up to like a brown because it's got green and orange. Same with this little scrap here. I mean, you could totally take this and swirl this into a lentil bead and see, you know, kind of wrap it around clay and see what you get. So let's pick these up, put them on a tile. Oh, that green is sticky. It's really sticky. And again, don't quite worry about the shape because we're going to burnish them out and put 2 pieces together. And so this back is less sticky than the green, so I'm going to be laying this one on top of that one, which means I want to get these little flaky bits off so it doesn't end up on the top of that. If it does, it's not the end of the world. We can shave it off or take a little alcohol to it, but Shape already got stretched out and wonky, but again, I just want it a little similar. So when I lay that one on top, and what am I going to do with this one? You could always, you know, cut it any way you want to cut it. Maybe something like that. So then let's layer it, and again, we got to move quick. Don't pat it down, just gently set it so it's somewhat the same. Cut, lift. Come on, come on, come on. This is really hard to do in the summer. Not gonna be able to, am I? Something weird's happened right there. Oh, 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 that was peeling off. I thought, oh, sorry guys. I hit the floor and I hit the floor right side up. This backing was peeling off. I thought the flowers were. It's okay though. So what we'll do, doing these sometimes gets hard if you don't let things rest. It can be very difficult. Unless you were to like cut it exactly in half or that kind of thing. Usually works easier for me than what it's been doing today, but it's been a pretty, I think it was 94 today, which is really hot for Vermont, and it's been fairly humid as well. Let's see if I can salvage this one by shaving that backing clay off. Because that's what stuck to it, was this back. See? Before I squish them together too much, I'm going to gently shave. Oh, that one I shaved too much. See if I can get some of this off. Or if it's a goner. If I have weird little areas, I'm okay with it because I'm going to resin and that will fill in that little piece I just took off. These pieces are too thick for alcohol to take off. What's stuck to it? That one's pretty good. This one kind of got a little not so good. Or I could have just left them and sanded it because it was on this side. Because you used a medium here, it's not really ideal to sand the watercolor, but the cane slices you could sand a little bit if you get any weird stuff on it. I don't know why today they're all sticking so bad. I might take a little piece of this one. I don't know if you can see, I kind of gouged it right there. Let me just see if I can. Right there. I can get a piece in there without messing up my seam too much. Let's see if we can make them work. Parchment. Again, seam first. Once you get the seam straight up and down, then you can go. You know, it would be great for something like this when you're doing seams and they might get wobbly on some people. That nail tape that we did on that pendant a little while back with all those multicolors. That would be something you could put on a seam. Sometimes people put leaves or different things along the seams, canes, you know, leaf canes, really small flowers. You can put your translucent small flowers. There's all kinds of canes you can put there. We've put canes down the seam before. Very tropical with the green, which is why I thought the green would look cool with the orange. You know, not your initial mindset of going green and orange, but right? Kind of tropical looking. It looks like leaves and flowers. I quite like them. I gotta stretch this one just a little bit more. So I'm burnishing it to be able to cut the shape back out. I mean, some people like the straight line and they just lay 2 veneers. They cut a flat line and a flat line and they lay 2 veneers. Then they cut it out, but I kind of like the curves, as you've seen me do many times when I do this. It's not anything we haven't done at all. This should be good. Pretty, we salvaged it. So I don't know if you can see, but either I have a gap there, and I'm right on the edge, or I get that, and then I have a gap down here. So again, this one I have to stretch a little bit more too. So I'm just going to flatten the whole thing just a little bit more. I'm just using my fingers to see if it's flat or if anywhere's stuck up more than another, you know, raised higher. Just use your fingers to tell. Okay. I'll get as much of this green as I can in there is my goal. That should work. I don't jiggle my cutters. Oh, have I been out of focus? Because if you jiggle your cutter, you're changing your shape. So just push down nice and firmly. Plastic cutters you can have a harder time with, but you can deal with the slag later. As long as you can get off. Or if you're having trouble, just like we did the other day, run your blade around it. If you jiggle it, you're going to change the shape of the pendant, and you also may push your edges up a little bit. Those are going to be cool. I like those. With this other one, with this green one that I don't like that much, I was thinking of laying these canes on top of it. These ones here. So the same way we just laid them on that swirl, and then I was going to use that as the other side. this will be a nice fall one. So I think I'm going to do this, but in a fast forwarded version, because it's no different than what we were just doing. Okay, got them all burnished. Now I'll cut them out, and they're all good to go in the oven. Again, I don't really need to sand them. I'll probably just gently buff them. If anything, and you want to sand your flower side, you totally can. Just keep your sandpaper on your flower side. And then resin. And drill a hole and put your bail on. These ones I'm not doing a separate back for, as you know. Just like, you know, we did earlier, we did a backing. So if you have trouble with your two parts separating, then definitely put a back on them to make them one piece. You can do it after you bake them. You can put them like this and then add the back later. Especially if you like a bail that goes in between the back layer, you could bake them or do it now, however you want to do that. I think they both look quite cool, and they'll even look better once the translucent goes clear. And I think for my other ones, I got to put a bail and jump ring on. They just came out of the light. There's that one. There's the solid blue one. I mean, I have other ones, but I only resined one of each. And there's that green veneer. So they just came out of the light. So I'm going to let them cool for a second, and then I'll drill holes. So I made a yellow one here with the yellow, and then I had the excess here that I had, and I didn't swirl it or anything like a lentil bead. I just literally balled it up and started shaping it into a cabochon. Why not use those scraps for something else too? So I'm just literally forming one by hand, a little teardrop shape. I did make another one, which I'll show you at the end when I finish everything, that I swirled, so you can see the difference. But I did use the cutter here from Ojoy Creations. I just want to say, because I've had a couple people say they're not super sharp. No, they are not super sharp, and plastic cutters never really are super sharp. But she has to sand every single one of the cutters she makes by hand. She has great customer service. She'll always fix anything that's wrong. She ships them fast. They're really cheap prices, and she's local in the U.S. So you can, trim off a little excess so easily with your Dremel, with your fingernail, with your craft knife. It is not that big of a deal not to have a super, super sharp cutter. She's got great shapes. She'll pretty much make you anything you want, and awesome silk screens as well. So I don't mind it. So I finish off all my veneer, and this is everything I've made. These ones are resin, these ones are not. So we have a blue one here. I don't know if you can see the micas down in it, but they're actually really, see it shimmering? And some of the acrylic paints and stuff down there. And the mica. Here's another plain blue one. Here's a green one. This was that second green veneer that I did fast forwarded. I got some little bubbles in my resin, but yeah. Here is the one with the orange. You see the micas down in there? In real life, it shimmers really, really nicely. See it down there? So I kind of like the mix of the acrylic paint. See right there, that one? And then the mica powder. I like that mix. Here's the yellow one. So this is just the chalk. I think mica powder or like an interference mica would have looked pretty with the yellow. I did a double-sided, but I didn't resin the other side. And then I have just, you know, the multiples that I did not resin. Just kind of buffed them up a little bit. The blues, I did these yellows with some really old canes that I had. I'm trying to use up. Yellow and blue always good. Goes good together. And then a couple cabs that I can finish if I want. So yeah, they are all done. Now I just need to figure out, I believe these are the ones I'm going to wear, and then maybe one of these two. I'll probably resin up, probably this one here, and I can wear all of these and then put these. I have a box of not bad pendants, but you know, I don't need to wear I don't need to have 2 of these resined and ready to go for just me to wear, right? So I have a box here. Some are resin, some are not, some are, you know, just ready to go. They're sanded and buffed and ready to go. But I have all kinds down here that's where I generally put these excess in. So if I have a family member that I want to give something to, or you know, someone, then they're ready to go. I just got to resin and drill a hole. But I tend not to resin all of them because I don't want to waste, you know, the amount of resin I use. Because it's kind of pointless if it's just going to sit in a box, right? So I tend to just save them sometimes. But anyway, so that's pretty much it for today's tutorial, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. We made a lot of different things, and I think they're all kind of neat, you know, especially I think this one will be a good fall one. Same with this, good summer or fall, you know. Most of them, actually. This is more summery. I usually take pendants out in the winter and fall and then put them away in the summer and then take summery ones out. So I kind of rotate through. But yeah, those are the ones I'm going to wear.